Alright lads, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about the A-10A, both the early and the late models, as they are practically the same, at least in terms of flight performance. With the only real differences being the weapons that they carry, as well as the skins, which you still have to unlock, even if you bought the premium. You can say what you want about Gaijin, but they know how to squeeze every last dollar out of you. Anyway, the A-10A early, the premium version, is a rank 6 batter rating 9.7 attacker in the American tech tree, obviously. Whereas the A-10A late is a rank 7, a batter rating 10.0. It's also an attacker and American, obviously again. Now, from here on in, I'll mostly be covering the premium version of the A-10, at least until we get up to the weaponry. But as I said, the premium and the non-premium aircraft are basically just copy and paste. Anyway, to put the premium in your lineup, it's going to cost you 10,000 Silver Lions, the same as all other premium aircraft. For the Expert in Ace qualifications, it'll be 1,210,000 Silver Lions and 2,600 Golden Eagles. But due to this plane not really going fast enough to pull high Gs, it isn't really needed, to be honest. In terms of rewards, and with a premium account, you can expect an RP modifier of 678% and a Silver Lion modifier of 420%. And for the non-premium A-10, it'll be an RP modifier of 464% and 270% for the Silver Lion modifier. Both versions of the A-10 do get quite a few skins available for purchase with Golden Eagles, but currently at the time of the recording, there are no vehicles on the Gaijin marketplace. However, this is likely to change very soon. Well, the reputation of the A-10 is certainly very large, but is it actually worth grinding out these aircraft? Is the A-10 all bark and no bite? Well, let's get into the video and find out. Alright, to start, both A-10s are powered by two turbofan engines, the General Electric TF34 GE100As. A very catchy name, as I'm sure you'll agree. These engines more closely resemble the engines found on the early jets in War Thunder, not really the ones that we find at top tier. For example, these engines don't have an afterburner. This means that this plane does not have the monster power to weight ratios that we find on some of the other jets currently at top tier, or near top tier. So, no vertical takeoffs in this jet. The engines are powerful though, producing 4,040 kg of thrust at takeoff altitudes. And while this is a lot, the A-10 is very heavy. The weight of this aircraft, combined with the 8,000 kg of thrust, it only gives you a rate of climb at around 25.3 meters per second. And because the A-10 doesn't have afterburners, you can kind of trust the rate of climb stat on the stat card. Another value on the stat card that you can definitely trust is the max speed of 642 km per hour. The A-10 is painfully slow for a batter rating 9.7 and 10.0 aircraft. As I said, both the premium and the non-premium aircraft are pretty much copy and paste, and share the same negative flight characteristics. Luckily though, the A-10 does have long, straight wings, which does make it very good at manoeuvring, at kind of lower speeds. But again, the plane is heavy and has relatively low power to weight, so you will bleed a lot of energy during turns. This means if you do engage in a manoeuvre fight with someone, you'll have to get a kill within the first few turns, or you will be energy trapped by pretty much every other jet at batter rating 9.7. And God forbid you go against some of the MiGs or Mirages at batter rating 10.3. And if you do get in a dogfight with Mirage or a MiG-21MF, you may as well put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. But the A-10 does have some positives. The cockpit and pilot are very well armoured. You have titanium alloy pretty much surrounding the entire cockpit, which is 1.5 inches thick, or 38mm. We then also have bulletproof glass up front, which is 44mm thick. Again, this isn't really going to protect you from ground-based anti-aircraft guns, but it should keep your pilot safe from frags, as well as heavy machine guns. Alright, the firepower. And obviously, the A-10's are armed with the 30mm GAU-8/A cannon. This is a huge revolving 30mm gun which takes up the majority of the aircraft. Well, it takes up a third of the aircraft. It's still a rather big gun, as I'm sure you'll agree. You can carry a total ammunition count of 1,174 rounds of ammunition, and you have a fire rate of 4,200 rounds per minute. So you can continuously fire the gun of this thing for about 23-ish seconds. But I highly doubt you will run out of ammunition in this thing. You are almost certainly going to get shot down before you even fire 200 of those rounds. Every single Gepard and Schildkamine is out in full force at the minute, boys. And the likelihood of you getting even close to the battlefield without being shot down is incredibly unlikely. But do not worry though, boys, we do have a lot of standoff munitions in this aircraft. in both variants actually. But before we get to those, let's cover the ammunition for the main gun. You have two rounds basically. You have armor piercing incendiary tracer, as well as high explosive incendiary. The armor piercing is obviously armor piercing, and can penetrate up to 102mm at a range of 10 meters. Although if you can get your guns on target at a range of 10 meters, then you're obviously a better pilot than I am, and at the much more realistic engagement distance of a 1000 meters or 1 kilometer, it can penetrate 75mm of armor. This is still very good, mind you, especially at battle rating 9.7, where a lot of the NATO and most of the Soviet tanks aren't particularly well armoured from the side and top. For example, most NATO tanks have around 30 to 40mm of armour, and most Soviet bloc tanks have around 80 to 70mm of armour. So you certainly can use this gun as an anti-tank gun. However, just be aware, flying low and in a straight line trying to get your gun on a target does make you an incredibly easy shot for anti-aircraft fire. Right, now everyone stop spurging about the gun, let's get on to the actual workhorse of this tank, the bombs, rockets and missiles. We'll start with the bombs. Nothing fancy here. We have two types of dumb bomb. We have the 500-pound bomb, which contains 120 kilos of TNT, destroying any vehicle within a radius of 8 meters. We then also have the 2,000-pound bomb, which contains 580 kilos of TNT, destroying any vehicle within a radius of 20 meters. You can actually carry up to 6 2,000-pound bombs, giving you a very impressive 12,000 pounds of bomb load. That means if you're a shitty pilot like me, you can guarantee at least one kill with those bombs. Anyway, if you've got a bit of a shaky hand and can't aim for shit, then the plane does come with an easy mode. This is the GBU-8. This is basically a TV guided JDAM. You come in fast at a medium altitude, designate a target in the TV camera, and then drop the bomb. The bomb will then guide itself onto the target. Bear in mind, enemy tanks can move while the bomb is in flight, and the bomb will struggle to track. It's also worth pointing out this is a gravity bomb. It doesn't have any sort of propulsion itself, so you will have to enter the battlefield at rather close range. The same kind of bombing run that you'd have to do with normal dumbfire bombs. The difference between the previous two dumb bombs and this GBU-8 is that the GBU-8 will guide itself in the terminal or drop point. After the bomb has been dropped, it will make minor corrections. Whereas obviously with dumb bombs, there's no way of changing where they're going. But both the two dumb bombs and the GBU-8s do leave you very vulnerable. You've got to climb to a reasonable altitude to acquire a target, and then come down and drop your weapons. Well, luckily for both the premium and non-premium A-10, we do have some standoff weapons in this plane. These are the Agm-65 Mavericks. Now, on the premium version, the early, we have the Agm-65B. Like the GBU-8s, they are TV guided, which means you get a normal black and white camera and will have to struggle to acquire a target. Again, that is a black and white camera, not an FLIR or thermal camera, just pure black and white, so it is quite hard to acquire a target. But you can lock up individual tanks and fire. The Mavericks obviously are air-to-ground missiles, so they will propulse themselves, so you can fire them from a maximum range of 23 kilometers. However, in-game that isn't really going to be effective. You better get into around medium altitude and then launch them from around 10 to 6 kilometers. That's what I found most effective. Depending on what battle rating you are, you don't really see the top tier anti-aircraft systems in this thing. It's mainly just advanced actual anti-aircraft guns. So you want to be launching at a range, if you can, as close as possible while staying out of firing range, so between no closer than 4 kilometers, shall we say. Now, on the A-10A late, the tech tree version, we have the Agm-65Ds. These missiles are exactly the same as the Agm-65Bs found on the A-10 early, except they have a thermal imaging camera. This makes it much easier to acquire targets, but it contains the same TNT payload and the same penetration. So the only thing that is different between the A-10A early and the A-10A late, at least from what I can tell, is that the Mavericks have slightly different tracking and target acquisitions. One other slight difference is when it comes to the anti-air missiles, or the air-to-air missiles should I say. Both planes can carry the AIM-9L. These missiles were famously used by the British in the Falklands War, shooting down several Argentinian planes. These missiles are all aspect, which means you can lock a target from the front, like the R-60Ms in the Soviet tech tree. They have a rear aspect lock range of 6 kilometers and an all aspect lock range of 3 kilometers. They also have a maximum overload of 30 Gs. They have quite a long burn time, which means that the missile actually propels itself for quite a long time. And because this version of the AIM-9L is quite advanced, it's actually got quite a lot of resistance to flares, at least when fired in the rear aspect. Bear in mind though, the AM-9L will be filled by flares if you are firing all aspects. So if an enemy is coming towards you and you launch a missile at them, if they pop flares, it will pretty much always go for the flares instead of the plane. Something else to bear in mind as well is because the A-10 is so slow, these missiles aren't going to have the same Rmax or maximum range as they are on something a lot faster, such as the F-104 for example. Because an F-104 can launch these missiles at like Mach 1.1 compared to the 600 km/h of the A-10, you just aren't going to have the same range as if you were using a faster plane. That's why jets like the F-14 were designed to go so fast, so they could launch the big missiles high and fast to give them a lot more range. It's not a massive issue in War Thunder, at least from what I've found. You don't really need those massive long range shots, but just be aware you aren't going to be shooting at F-104s from 4 clicks away and expecting to hit them. But in general, I've found the AM-9Ls are very effective. They've been making short work of pretty much all non-American teams in air RB from what I've seen. They're also very effective in ground RB because you can come up from underneath people and shoot them as they're spawning in really. It's a bit scumbaggy, but it's very effective. And our last missile system, or rocket system should I say, is the 70mm Hydras. These have a high explosive anti-tank warhead, which contains 1.2 kilos of TNT. This isn't a lot of TNT, it does give it rather mediocre post-penetration damage. They do have a very good 290mm of penetration. That's it for the firepower. So the main differences between the A-10 early and the A-10 late is just the late version, the Tech Tree A-10 can carry 4 AM-9Ls, whereas the Premium can only carry 2 AM-9Ls. And the difference between the Mavericks of both planes is the B variant on the Premium can only have TV guidance, so just black and white, whereas the Agm-65Ds on the Tech Tree version have a thermal imaging or forward-looking infrared seeker. That being said, let's get on to the conclusion. So, the big question, should you actually grind or buy the A-10? Well, the A-10A late certainly is a very good ground attacker. It has a lot of weapons and advanced weapon systems. The 30mm gun is good on both planes, so is all the suspended ordnance really. They're both very good in terms of actually killing if you get the chance to. The problem is that these planes just don't do well in the current meta of War Thunder. The A-10s in real life are by far incredibly redundant. The United States Air Force has been trying to get rid of them for the past 20 odd years. But people like John McCain, when he was, before he passed away, they've been wanting to keep them in service because 30mm go Bert. But in terms of practical battlefield role, they're pretty much useless. You need pretty much uncontested to actually use the A-10s. And with the rapid, and pretty much every nation now has anti-helicopter, anti-low-flying weapon systems like man-pads, infantry fighting vehicles, tanks with proxy fuses. The A-10 will probably never be fielded again in a major war. And it's kind of the same in War Thunder, you know, every tank has at least got a heavy machine gun nowadays, at least at pretty much near top tier. They can kill you. If you do actually manage to take out someone, you can bet your ass he's going to spawn back in his SPA and blow you out the sky. And because a lot of people are somehow convinced that the 30mm gun is just insane, everyone's coming in really low and pretty, well, kind of slow, trying to get gun kills. And I've just seen people in Leopard 2Ks farming A-10 players. I've seen people who have got the premium A-10 spawning in M4A1 Sherman tanks at top tier trying to get into the A-10 that they've just purchased. I'm going to go ahead and say that the A-10A late is a good ground attacker. It's got good missiles, probably too overpowered to be honest. Realistic battles at the minute is either A-10s getting slaughtered or A-10s absolutely killing everything in sight because the A-10Ls are insanely good. But the premium A-10, it's a little bit, it just has a bad taste to it in my opinion. The plane performs well if you're not a brain dead player and the enemy team is brain dead, but it's kind of created a culture, even more so than all the other premiums currently in War Thunder. It's 90% of the people that have the Bert in their title when you spawn in, they're all low level players. I think the A-10A early pack also has more reviews in like a week than the T29 or the XM1 had in its like 4 years of being around. More people have pre-ordered it than have purchased the XM1 over the years or something stupid like that. And while you can't really blame Gaijin, that is their business model. They support the game every couple of months. They need revenue to develop the game and stuff, but there really should be some sort of system where it prevents you from buying a top tier premium. Because It's kind of it's like you're just making money off kids, really, isn't it? It's kind of a bad taste in my mouth to recommend it. I did buy it, obviously, so maybe I'm being a hypocrite, but if you aren't a good player at War Thunder, spending $60 on any sort of premium is basically, you're just basically pissing that money down the sink, well, down the toilet, should I say. It's not a great use of your money, lads, so unless you fly daily and you can play any vehicle and get like a double ace, I don't even know how he does that every single day. Anyway, I wouldn't recommend the A-10A Premium unless you're a good player. It performs pretty well at 9.7. Because of its battle rating, it won't see the worst of the top tier vehicles, at least yet. You probably will get a battle rating increase to at least 10.0, if not 10.3. The AIM-9Ls are just insanely good at the minute. But anyway, lads, A-10A late, good. A-10A bad, unless you're a good player. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, maybe leave a like, or become a member of the channel, like Just Someone, Destroyer 1805, Dr. Bob, Tans, Deboa XL, William Tessier, and Lola Apollonzi. Thanks guys for being members. Once again, I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for watching. See you later, lads.